I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone. You know it's Tuesday because it's Ask Rob and Rob. But if you listen to this late, it might not be Tuesday. Don't get confused. And before I confuse you any further, let me remind you of the format of this show. You send in 2 questions. We answer 2 questions. You walk away with a little bit more knowledge, and we walk away a little bit happier that we shared some knowledge. So that's the intention. Let's see if we can deliver. But if you want to be a part of this process, there are 2 ways you can get involved.
Yes, there are. You can give us a call, 013 808 00035. That's 013 808 00035. Or you can head to propertyhub.net/ask and leave us a question that way instead. However you do it, make sure you get your questions in and we'd love to answer it for you. If you feel like being cheeky and asking multiple questions, you might even get lucky and have us answer both of them. Well, it's Lisa's lucky day. She's going to have 2 questions answered today. Let's have a listen to the first one.
Hello, Rob and Rob. This is Shen from Manchester. I got 2 questions for you. First is I am going to let out a second house and move into my new home. I already have a house in the south managed by a housing agent, but I'm wondering, should I have a go at managing the second house myself, or should I go for the fully management plan? I can think about using a estate agent. Maybe it would be easier to collect rent, but wouldn't a good landlord insurance cover that as well?
Thank you for your question, Lisa, and congratulations on your growing portfolio. So you're after Manchester. Brilliant. Great choice. So as you live in Manchester, should you manage it? And this may sound unhelpful at first, but it really is up to you. There is no rule book for this. Just because you live locally doesn't mean you have to manage it yourself. If I lived locally to a property, I wouldn't. But again, that's a personal choice to me. And I'll explain why. For me, I don't want the hassle. A property portfolio, for me, is a hands-off experience. Or that's the intention. So I will use wonderful companies like Property Hub Lets to manage those properties for me. I don't gain any enjoyment from managing properties. It's not the fun part of property investment for me. For others, it is. And if you feel that this could be something that you would like to try, you are good at, and you have the time to do it, then crack on. But you need to tick those 3 boxes, really, for me. If you don't feel you're organised as a person, then I would probably not do this because it's not going to be a great experience for you or your tenants. If you feel that it's something that's fun and you feel positive around that experience, then that's cool. But if it's something you dread the thought of doing, then again, write it off. And finally, you may tick the first 2 boxes, but if you are time poor, then the other 2 go out the window because you could be the most organised person in the world. You can love the thought of managing the property and giving a great service to tenants. But if you are time poor, like so many people are these days, then the prospects of managing a property well aren't good. But if you can tick all 3 boxes, you are organised, you're on the ball, you like the thought of doing it, and you've got the time to do it, then why not? Crack on, try it. You may love it. You may not look back and you may end up trying to manage more properties. It may even become a business for you. But you may hate it. Who knows? But if those 3 boxes are ticked, then at least try. If they're not, maybe don't kid yourself and get it managed by the professionals who can look after it for you. But hopefully, Lisa, now you can make a more informed decision. But as Rob said, you cheeky so-and-so, you've asked another question. So let's listen to that.
Second, I want to invest in the one more property this year. And I listened to your advice and I'm looking at Manchester City Centre and Liverpool City Centre. However, I find that there are also a lot of apartments on the market waiting to be rent. And I'm wondering, is there any good advice about what should I prepare if I can't let out my property in a short period of time? Is there any good advice that I can do to prepare myself? Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, getting the property let, that's a pretty important part of investment. Well, the first thing to say is if there is a lot on the market in the places that you're looking, then that's not particularly surprising because you're looking at Manchester city centre where there are a lot of people living, and therefore there will always be property on the market because there'll always be tenancies coming to an end and new ones starting. So that's not necessarily a sign that it's going to take a long time for your property to let. What you need to be looking at is how long those properties are sticking around for. If the market is moving fast and within a couple of weeks those adverts are coming and then going again or showing as let agreed, then you can have some confidence that the market is moving fast, and therefore if your property is marketed well and priced right, then you're not going to have to worry about long void periods. Of course, though, it is something that you should be prepared for, and it is especially painful on that first let because you don't have tenants in there. On subsequent lets, you're going to have a couple of months' notice where you can try to line up tenants while the existing ones are still there. So you're not going to be out of pocket for as long a period. But it is a little bit painful that first time when you've got all those expenses and no income. So you're right to be aware of this and to be planning for it. And it's especially something that you should be aware of if you're buying on a new development where there's a lot of flats coming on at the same time. It's just the nature of developments that many of them will complete at the same time, and that means that they all go onto the rental market at the same time. That extra supply means that it just is going to take a little bit longer than it would normally do for those properties to be let. Some of them won't be, some of them will happen to be first and it'll be absolutely great, but one of them has to be last, and that means that it will take longer than it will do in future. The key thing to remember, though, is that this is the first and only time that all these properties will be available at the same time. So it's something you need to be prepared for. But if you have a bad experience, then it doesn't mean it's going to happen every single time. It is just a one-off. So how do you prepare for that one time? Well, the main thing is just to make sure that you've got a buffer in place. You've got a contingency fund, so you don't absolutely stretch yourself to the maximum when buying the property and have nothing left over. If you've got enough in the bank to pay a few months of expenses, so you can pay the mortgage and the service charge and whatever else happens while the property is empty, then you can be more relaxed about it than if you were getting very, very tight on cash. So having that buffer is important. There's no right or wrong level for it. It's just about having the level that you need to be comfortable and relaxed and make sure that you don't need to be overly stressing if that property does sit empty for a little while. The other thing is just to minimise that period as much as you can by being prepared, so as soon as the property completes, you can be ready to either leap into action yourself or have your letting agent already instructed so they can get in there and start marketing it from day one. And then if it's not moving as quickly as you'd like, make sure that you're always making tweaks. As a general rule, if you haven't had any bites in the first week or two, things aren't going to magically change. So either your marketing needs a refresh or you need to come and revisit the price. If you just leave it, then chances are it will take longer than it needs to. But if you or your agent is always monitoring it, they're making tweaks all the time, and if necessary, taking a hit on the price for the first let just to get it filled and have some money coming in, then you can keep that period to a minimum, get your first set of tenants in, and from there, it should hopefully all be plain sailing. So that's 2 questions, 2 answers, and hopefully 1 happy hubber. Would you like to have your question featured on the show? Then just get over to propertyhub.net/ask and send it our way. Also, make sure to be listening on Thursday because we're going to be back then with another great episode of the Property Podcast. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.